well. In fact, I guess if I have to keep this mic up on my face, that's going to be a little bit of a challenge for me. But all I can say right now, at this very moment, is just looking in this room and seeing some amazing people out in front of me that I haven't seen for a while. First off, Happy New Year, everybody. Because normally I'm in a bow tie, my little shorts, I'm out there, and I'm looking up at all of you. Now I can see you, I'm in warm condition. I don't have my bow tie on, I apologize. I was going to cut a hole in the ice and do a little bit of a dip today, but that's not going to happen. My wife won't let that happen. I'm just getting over a lung infection from that 77-day yoga retreat, which I don't recommend anybody to go on. All kidding aside, though, it is overwhelming, but it's very therapeutic for me to be back here in Perth. You know, I left after 9/11, but I never did leave Perth. I was always coming home to see my family. My daughter's here in this audience right now, Amanda, with her lovely boyfriend, Luke, and then my wife's the rock star, she's here. So she's joined me on a few occasions, so it's always been my honor, my treat to come home to Perth. Perth is my home, and I thought a lot about you during that time. So it's amazing, very, like I said, it's very therapeutic, and I could feel everybody, I could feel your warmth and your love. So if I break down a little bit, please apologize. Give me a little bit of a break in that, and support the fact that I am not a robot, contrary to belief. A lot of people think I am. So sometimes I will, I can tear down. And I've got a lot of amazing friends in here from the military that have seen me grow up throughout my career. And I thank you all for showing up, everybody, for showing up to listen to me. I guess, this is very impromptu for me. So, you want to hear my story, you want to hear what had happened, lessons learned, all of that is going to be important for everybody. I know you've seen some of the news clips, etc., but I'm going to share whatever you want to also ask me today, because I think it's my job now to pass on the story. I think it really is. And while Junping and I, my wife and I, we were in Vancouver, we had the opportunity to link up with my partners, the Veterans Transition Network. And they support a lot of veterans, and especially with the mental health package. And they have some great, amazing professionals, the clinicians. So we took the opportunity to talk to them, my wife and I. And I can't reveal too much, but what I will reveal is the gentleman said to me, he says, after listening to your story, Dave, first off, you're looking not too bad, mentally, and physically, but, I'm amazed that you're standing in front of me the way you are. And then he said, I believe it was your mission to be detained. And I looked at him and I'm going, how is that the case? I'm supposed to be detained? Why? What mission is this? But he says, your mission was to get captured, go through what you went through, and then share your story so it doesn't happen again, or if it does happen again, people can learn from it. So I took that and I looked at that and I listened to it, because I have been reached, a lot of people have reached to me and said, would you mind, talking a little more in depth on what happened? What's it like, being detained? And some people, they've gone through worse than I have. We have a lot of stuff that's actually happening here in Canada, and I'll talk a little bit about that later, because it's amazing organization with amazing folks that are in this room here supporting a great cause. And I'll talk more about the Joy Smith Foundation that kept my mind active while I was in detention. Because being a survivor and having some of the training that I've had, I think everybody realizes I was in the military, and I spent 23 years, and I've spent and served some of the time with certain folks that are in here right now. That training did help me. I don't care what anybody says, no matter how hard the training is, it's going to assist you one day, whether it's whatever walk you're doing, whatever your calling is. The training is everything about survivability. The training is going to make you move and think and adjust normally or adapt to that situation as best you can. And in my case here, it clicked in immediately. And one thing I do remember from our training, especially when you start talking about conduct after capture, escape and evasion, detention and all that, it was always controlling your fear. Because you're gonna have one guy, a bad guy, he's gonna be in your ear, he's gonna be talking to you all the time, negative thoughts, and he's gonna be drawing you down. But then your good guy, he's gonna calm you down. And he's gonna basically say, calm down, Dave, and just basically live your day by day. And that was the biggest thing for me. My big takeaway was, don't anticipate anything out there for long haul. Don't anticipate you're gonna get out next week or the month before. Just concentrate on that day by day scenario. And that did help me. My job was the easiest job of it all. All I have to do was survive, stay healthy. Play the old man. Well, I am an old man. Play the old man and play the hurt, busted old man. And I am. I just had a new hip put on me, my right hip, got a titanium hip. I have only one kidney because I had cancer, and they removed my kidney. So I was able to utilize that. And again, training, some of the guys in the room here, they know what I'm talking about. You rely on something that you can enforce on your captors or the people that are holding you. You want to gain a good rapport with those people that are holding you. And I can assure everybody in this room, they did not harm me physically. Mentally, it's a torture, but they did torture me. And I know some people thought I might be hanging from the rafters and they might be beating me. Not to say that they haven't done that to some of the people in there, which they have, but I was never tortured. I was never harmed. In fact, as time went on, I got to have a better rapport with some of these people. I didn't fall in that Stockholm syndrome, but I did utilize it again. And everything is try to control the narrative. And that's what I was trying to do. I wanted to control the narrative the best I could. And it was difficult at times. It was really difficult, especially on the interrogation. When you go into a room and you got guys with weapons, and I'll call him Mr. Blue because he was dressed in blue, so his name was Mr. Blue. So Mr. Blue asking me all of these really important questions from their perspective, but sensitive questions. You know, one question, especially under video, they're looking at you and they're demanding that you give up and say you're a member of the government, you're a spy, you're working for CSIS, you're working for CIA. In fact, they even accused me of working for Israel. And I looked at them numerously on film, and I kept on saying, I, David Theodore Lavery, I do not work for the government of Canada. I am not a spy. I brought these documents in on my own accord. They didn't like that. They didn't like it at all, in fact. And we repeated and repeated that whole session. In fact, there was a funny moment out of this. And humor is really important when you're in a situation like this. And if you can control your mindset, you can do some amazing things. It almost got me in trouble though. So anyways, picture this. You got Mr. Blue. He's a big guy, he's got a blue mask on. He's wearing his blue agar. You got another guy there with a tripod, with a camera, but he looks serious. You know, he's all dressed up, scarfed up. And then you got two men with weapons. They're there. There's a desk in front of me, and I'm sitting on a chair. And they're going on, it's a very intense interview, and they're going on with this interview. And then the gentleman behind the camera, he started to stumble with his camera. And he was goofing around with his camera. And you could see he was getting a little agitated. I had a moment, and all I could think of, I thought of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jamie Lee Curtis in the movie True Lies. How many people have seen True Lies? Remember that moment where the dude is up there in the big terrace and you got that big mother bomb behind him and he's making that big speech to the whole world and he's got his cameraman focused in on you? Yeah. Wow. I'm looking at him and I had to put my head down and I started chuckling because the guy reminded me of that guy who was doing the filming, and then all of a sudden his camera battery was going off. And then he lowered the camera down, and then his boss obviously didn't like what was going on. And it was one of those moments. I'm not saying it was something that I would promote anybody to do in a situation like that, but they didn't know I was chuckling. They thought I was probably crying because I put my head down. And I just I shook my head and go, "You gotta be kidding." So there is humor. My whole point, there is some humor. You have to try and bring that in, and that's humor in anything in life. You know, we're talking about me on that 77-day Taliban yoga retreat, which I don't recommend, like I said before, but it is something that we can carry on, I can learn from and pass that on to with anything in life. You know, family deaths, you know, serious situations, you know, that we go through. It is trauma, and we want to know how to address that. How can we calm ourselves down? And unfortunately for me, which is fortunate for others, I've dealt with a lot of crisis, like some of the other people in this room. And over time, I don't want to say you become callous to the incidents and to the horrific events, you know, everything which my wife stood by my side, I should say, during August 2021, when we evacuated everybody that we could off that runway in Kabul when Afghanistan fell. Those 12 days, we thought at that point in time was the most challenging that we've ever had to go through. And they were, I can't describe it. There's enough videos and pictures out there. We were involved in it, but those crises at that time, you learn from them, you grow from them, and then you put them in a tool bag. And I've been carrying this tool bag around with me from many times. The other incident that's really important in my life was the Finest supermarket attack. For those that don't know, I met my lovely wife, June Ping, in that supermarket where we were both shot up, blown up by a suicider. I carried my wife out of that supermarket, and then 10 years later, I carried her on the beaches in Seychelles and married her. So, she is my rock star. She doesn't get a half the credit that she should. If it wasn't for her, I'd probably still be in dark holes or wherever it is, because she's the one that's kept me going in some of these bad situations. So again, I also look at, and I even looked at that as I'm laying on the floor in the cell. I was looking at how do you take away a positive from a negative? And I always looked at that. So every significant and horrific event I've gone through, I've actually tried to take a positive away from it. So the best thing that ever happened to me during that horrific incident where we almost died and everybody was dying around us was my wife. So that's a positive, is it not? It is. The August situation, again, there was a lot of negativity in there, but we gained so much. And what we gained was we were able to move hundreds of family, thousands of family to date. In fact, why they detained me, because as you know, when I came off that plane, when they grabbed me and they opened up my bag and they opened up the envelope, there was 18 travel documents in there. There was 18 visas. There was 18 plane tickets. There was 18 temporary permanent residencies. They laid them all down on the table in front of me, and I was just shaking my head because it was a sick feeling. And also, when they opened up my suitcase, and I didn't even realize I put it in there, they pulled out my maroon beret, and they pulled out my original jump smock. You ask yourself, why is David bringing in a jump smock and his maroon beret? He's never done that before. Well, that morning, while I was in Dubai, my wife is already in Kabul waiting for me, because we were in there. We went in together on the 17th of October, and then I left on the 22nd of October, and my son came in to replace me, and then I went into the Ukraine to look after other clients. and then I came back to Dubai. So that day, that morning, which was a sacred day for me and everybody in this room, it was Remembrance Day. All I had in my mind was, I get off the plane, I meet my wife, and we dash off to the British Cemetery where the Canadian cenotaph is, where we've been holding a Remembrance Day for years there, honoring everybody on that wall, all our heroes that were left behind. So, that morning before taking a taxi, I got a message from a close friend of mine, Penn, who's already in Kabul. And all I seen was a picture of him with his beret on, standing in the British Cemetery, and I'm in front of the Canadian cenotaph. And I go, wow, geez, I should get my beret. And my beret was just right there, so I grabbed my maroon beret. And then I said, I'm gonna do one step better. I'm gonna grab my jump smock. So I grabbed my jump smock, grabbed my beret, and threw it in my suitcase. Not even thinking about this. This is how sometimes when you look at lessons learned, you also have to look at learning those lessons. So now, again, I'm back at that airport. They're holding up that beret. They throw it down. They hold up my jump smock. On my jump smock, I have a Ranger tab. I have a Pathfinder tab. I have Canadian wings, American wings, my name, and all they're pointing at is at my tabs. And they're talking in Pashtun, but I can only think what they're saying. And I could hear Ranger, and I could hear Canada, and then they throw my smock down. So I'm looking at my smock, and I'm looking at the travel documents, and I'm going, this is it. I'm not gonna get out of here. I'm not gonna get out of here for a while. With that, they packed everything up, and I followed them outside. They said, grab your suitcase, my blue suitcase. I grabbed my black MEC bag, which has my laptop, which, by the way, I wasn't gonna bring my laptop in, but I grabbed it anyway, so I grabbed my beret. I was leaving it behind. You can ask me, Dave, why did you bring your laptop? I don't know. I just grabbed it. But thank God I scrubbed a lot of stuff on that laptop. Same with my phones. So I follow these two individuals outside, and before I even get into that point, when I came off the plane and went through customs, I was the first guy off, and then I grabbed my bags and I left outside outside the carousel area. And then I turn left, there's a security screen there where you have to put your bags in the scanner. And there was a gentleman in front of me, an Afghan, and he was fumbling with all his bags. And he was taking forever. And that's the point when I realized something's not right. It felt like all of a sudden, it's like where I am right now. I'm on Spotlight in front of all you people, with all these people looking at me. And I'm like, this is not good feeling. And I saw more security than I had seen before. Airport security, Taliban security, and airport security. And I saw a guy on a phone looking at me. And I tried not to make contact with him. I put my head down. And I'm wishing this guy would hurry up. Finally, he moves a little bit, and I was able to put my bags on the screen. And when that happened, I was able to get around him, pick up my bag, throw it on, and I looked, and I could still see this gentleman. Now he's looking at me, he's talking to somebody. And I assumed he was talking about me. So I moved, and I started walking outside. I glanced behind me, and sure enough, what's he doing? He's walking towards me. Now he's in front of me, he's walking, I stop, and I let him go by me. Me being me, I take out my phone, and I have the picture. If you want to see it afterwards, I'll show it to you. I took a picture of him. He walked by me. I took a picture, and why? I wanted to send it to my team that's on the outside. My wife, you gotta remember, she's on the outside at the airport waiting for me. I was getting ready to text saying, listen, I think I'm compromised. I'm not gonna come back to the vehicle, stay in the vehicle. I was just getting ready to send that off. Then he turned around, he's looking at me. I put my phone back into my pocket, and I carried on walking. I walked fast, I walked by him. I just walked by him, and I was getting ready to turn left to go to the VIP parking lot area. Another gentleman coming around the corner, he also had a phone glued to his ear, but he saw me and he put his hand out, hit me in the chest, put me back and said, go back, we want to check your bag. So both of them now pushing me back, and that's when the whole ordeal with them going through my stuff. So I asked myself, maybe I was compromised. Maybe somebody informed them that I was coming. And it's a high possibility, and that's for another day. So when they got outside, they took me, they put me in the back of a vehicle, a little Toyota Corolla. And I was in the back seat. They told me to give me their phone, so I gave them my phone that I had. They blindfolded me, put a scarf around my eyes. They tied me up with another scarf, and now I'm in the back of the seat. And at that point in time, I said, it's game on, it's real. Wake up, David, wake up. It was numb. It was numb. Even though you have all this training and you deal with all this stuff before, I was still numb. I said, this is not happening to me. It doesn't happen to me. It shouldn't happen to me. I'm only going in for 4 calendar days. I've done it so many times. Well, it's now real, so you have to convince yourself to start to think the reality of what's going to happen next. And you can think about a whole bunch of stuff, but I wanted to think about right now. A lot of guys in this room have been in great training and also operations. We are taught to break free. We are taught to try and get out of that as soon as you can. If you could break free, break free. Could I have broken free? Yes, I could have. I could have taken the scarf off easily. I could have rolled out of that vehicle and ran away, but where am I going to go? What am I going to do? I'm not in war. This is a de facto government who's detained me. They have all the right in the world to detain me and to question me. So I went and played the game. But what I did do is I tried rolling the window down a little bit so I could hear better. And also I sat up higher in the back seat because I know my wife was there and I know my partner, so-called partner, was there. They might see me. At least it gives them a visibility, gives them, okay, there's Dave, he's taken. So we're off. And then the next phase happens. They get you to their area. But I was very alert on where we were driving. I knew we were driving south towards the U.S. Embassy, the Massoud Square. And then we turned left, went about another kilometer, 2.5 kilometers. Then we turned right, then left. I had a good idea. We were very close to the old ISAF headquarters and the old NDS, now the Government Department of Intelligence. I didn't know what unit it was. I later learned that it was Unit 69. So I now had a good idea where I am. Does that mean anything in the big picture? It sure does. It sure does. It's like anything you go through. If you can control something, if you can control a little bit of the narrative and at least calm yourself down, now I know where I'm at. And then the rest is basically going through what they want to go through with you. They strip you of everything. They take everything out of your bags. They lay it all in front of you on the floor. And they go through item to item. They're thinking, I'm a spy. They're thinking, I have a chip in me, which they did. They scanned me everywhere. Excuse me. And they were scanning my whole body. And I'm going, oh my God, my right hip's gonna go off because I got a titanium. So my hip's going off, it's beeping. And I'm going, please, don't take a knife out, don't go cutting in, trying to find a chip. They're saying, where's your chip? Where's your chip? I go, what are you talking about? It didn't dawn on me. So they thought I had a microchip or something, a tracker chip in me because they think I'm a spy. So anyways, I said, please, I have a bad hip. Funny part again, I do have a scar, a big scar, as you do when you have your hip replaced. So I dropped my pants and I showed them my butt. They didn't like that. They didn't like it when I did that on 2 occasions. The second time, they really didn't like it. So now you're going through the most important part of being detained or coming in. You lose all control, you lose everything. And then you try to adapt to the surroundings as quick as possible. So this whole area, open area, now condense it down to 4 meters by 6 meters by 3.5 meters. That was my living condition. I was fortunate. I was the only person in there. The Americans that I got to know, after a while, they were in that situation that I was in for 16 months. Think about it, 16 months in a little cell. Their skin color, everything, they turned gray, etc. I got to know them very well. 2 of them were released 5 days before I was. Then I was released. So you want to know and control as much as you can, and I did. And then I started getting into a routine, as you do. You start doing your push-ups, your sit-ups, stretches. In fact, my wife will attest to this. I can bend over and do stretches better than I ever had because that yoga retreat gave me that opportunity. Again, I thought I was signing up for 7 days. But seriously, you start to adapt very quickly. You know, you don't get showers. You didn't have a simple little things. You know, for 30 days in that cell, never had a toothbrush, never had toothpaste. So how do you clean your teeth? Hygiene, you know. Hygiene isn't a girl you wave to, it's something serious. So for us, everything that I did was take a little piece of the little towel they gave you, which is a disgusting towel because it's all the prisoners used it before. You're using a corner of it just to rub your teeth down. Because they did feed you. They fed you 3 times a day. It's not the greatest food by no means. In fact, I got sick off it, and a lot of people have had Afghan food, and it can be really good. But at least they fed you. But more importantly, because I only have 1 kidney, and I was really worried about my kidney functions, etc., and I didn't want to die in a cell because my kidney collapsed. So I drank water like a fiend. And they got annoyed because I would always have to go to the bathroom. So then finally they threw me a pee bottle. And that pee bottle actually worked out very well for me without going, you know, I don't mind saying in this forum, it was really good for my mental stability, understanding my kidney functions were good. There was no blood in my urine. I was smelling my urine. I could taste my urine. I could feel my urine, feel it, making sure it wasn't sugary and all that stuff. So that kept me going and understanding I'm still okay. My functions are good. I was peeing every 2.5 hours because I was drinking a big bottle of water. And that's one thing they gave me, and it was clean water. So I knew I'm gonna get through this, and my job was to survive so I can get back to see my family and friends. And all this time, while all this is going on, guess what, you know, you beat yourself up. It's like anything in life. You really, if you're by yourself and alone, you beat yourself up so bad. And I was beating myself up. I was so angry with myself for putting my family in the position, not me. I was worried about my family. I was worried about my wife. But this guy was telling me, your wife is being taken. This guy's telling me, no, she's not. My team has got her out of there, or they've got her across the border into Pakistan or up into Uzbekistan or wherever. So I was convinced by my good side that she was safe. Even though I didn't know she was safe. I had no clue she was safe. But it's really hard when you're back there because I felt so sorry. I kissed my ring 3 times, all the time. And that's because my wife kissed the ring. I remember putting my ring on my wife's finger, or her ring, and we had a hard time getting it on. So I kissed her finger and made it moist so I can get the ring on. And she did the same with this ring. So it's, you know, it's little things like that keep you going. But I was so angry. But that anger, I tried to harness it the best I could to get me through the situation. Because my mission now was to get home. My mission was to survive. Dave's got to survive. I said this before, you heard me say this, I think. I had the easiest job. I just had to survive. My family had to endure hell for every second, every minute, every hour, every day, every week, every month, until I was released. And I thought of that, and I thought of that, and I thought of that. But at the same time, while I was thinking of all of this stuff, while this bad guy was eating me up, this good guy was telling me, you got a lot of people on your side. You got a good tribe back home. You got a really big tribe. You got a good family. You're a good man. You didn't do anything wrong. You try to help others the best you can. That helped me. Did that ever help me? that got me through so much, knowing, and I don't know how to describe it. People ask me, did you get a feeling, did you feel this, did you feel that? I can tell you, I felt warmth, I felt so much. I did. I felt so much love. I knew guys were looking after my family. I knew Alfred was helping with the polar bear and helping out with my family. I knew people in my unit, ex-unit, the associations, they were going to help out, which they did amazingly. I just knew that. Because why? I would do the same. I would do the same for anybody, and I have. I don't know half the people I've looked after and got them out of a situation, but that's part of my DNA. And that's who we are. We have that capability, and the people in this room here that I'm very close with, that's in their DNA. So I knew that, and that got me through so much. So I'm not the religious guy who's going to church every day, but I believe in a faith and I believe in something, and my faith got me through something. And talking to the survivors and talking to the guys that were in the cell or in that safe room, safe house with me, I knew who was getting through their day to day because they had something to believe in. And we all believe in our families, whether it's a God or whoever, we believe in our closest things that we have to us, and that's family. Then our friends. I thought of all my friends. I thought of all my family. And that kept me going day in, day out, because I only lived one day at a time. I only did it one day at a time. What was I going to eat today? Wednesdays, unfortunately, was fish head day. And I hate fish heads, so and eventually I got sick off these fish heads, which was a good thing. So remember, a negative brought a positive, because every time Mr. Blue, my interrogator, would call me in for interrogation, what's the first thing he always asked me? He said, Mr. David, how are you feeling? And I always said, I'm not doing well. I need to see a doctor. I need to see a doctor, please. So then he would go, we have the best doctors in the world. And I'm shaking my head. No, you don't. But I know some doctors that are really good in Kabul who looked after me, because the year before I almost died. If it wasn't for my wife, she got me to the hospital. I had typhoid and I collapsed and I was going down very bad. They have a good history on me. So that doctor and those staff there, they know how to look after me, and they've treated me in the past many times. In fact, when we were shot and blown up, the main doctor, he was the guy who treated me and looked after me. So all I wanted to do is get to their hospital. Why? Once I get to their hospital, hopefully he's going to send a message back to my family and say, proof of life, David's alive, David's in good condition. His kidneys, which by the way, when I did get to Swan Hospital and did my kidney function test, my ultrasounds and all the blood work, my creatine level was the best it ever has been in 15 years. It was dropped to 1.2. Before that, it was like 1.5 or whatever it was. So it was the water, it was the nutrition, it was the workout, all of that played in it. So, you know, you have to look at the positives out of all these negatives. You know, and then when I left the second safe house, because I spent time with the Americans in that location, that was a progression. So when I was able to get out of phase one, which was the cell, the GDI cell, because the only reason I got out of there, I was very sick. And you have a little garbage can in your cell, you have a little Afghan mat, it's that thick, you have a pillow, and you have a blanket, that's it. You have a little garbage can. You have a red heater, electric heater on the wall behind you. And then you have two small little windows with grills on it. And then you have a camera watching every move you did. So they saw me, I was becoming very sick, I was throwing up, and I was going from the other end. I was knocking on the door to try to get out. They wouldn't open fast enough. So you can just visually now picture my size, trying to squat on a little garbage can. And it wasn't pleasant. It wasn't pleasant at all. So they saw all this, and then they came in that night, and they said, what do you need? We see you're sick. I said, I need to go see a doctor. And they said, no, what do you need like right now? Can we give you a shot? Can we give you some medicine? Whatever. And I go, I need to see a doctor. No, we'll get you to the doctor. I said, okay, what do you need? My stomach was not feeling well, but I know if I have a banana, I will take a little better. So I asked for, I said, get me a banana, please. So they're looking at each other. There's like 4 of them standing outside with weapons and all that. They go, banana. So in Pashtun, the word thank you is manana. And they're like, thank you. You know, I said, no, banana. Ooh. Not a word of a lie. Not a word of a lie. But an hour later, they came back with a branch full of these little bananas. They gave them to me. So now I had like about 15 bananas I could eat. And it helped because I'd take these bananas in the morning, because in breakfast time, all you get is maybe 1 hard-boiled egg or a little cheese holder or something like that, and a little bit of chai, tea. So I had bananas and I had some naan, their bread. So that went on for a few days. They kept on telling me they're going to take me to the doctor. It never happened. Then finally, on a Saturday after lunch, they told me to stand up, put my shoes on, follow us, put a hood on me, handcuffed me, back of the vehicle, and we started driving. We ended up into the hospital, and then that was a horrible experience. I don't have time to go through that. But I went through that. Once that was all done, they put a hood on me, handcuffed me, threw me back in the vehicle, and started driving. Now we went further than I anticipated, going back to our cell where I thought, I'm going to go back to the same place. We didn't. Now we're going down some bumpy roads, etc. Now I'm getting a little worried because I thought they're going to take me to another location. And one of my fears and worries was they were going to actually turn me over to the Russians, or they were going to turn me over to Al-Qaeda. I did worry about that. I did have a couple pictures on my phone. I didn't delete. I was just in Ukraine. And I thought, maybe I'm going to end up with the Russians, or maybe I'm going to end up with Al-Qaeda. So we drove for about another 5 minutes, then we pulled into a gate, hood off. Now I'm looking at a villa. I'm looking at a normal villa that an NGO would have had at one point in time. And then they said, welcome to your new location. I'm going, my new location. So I get outside the vehicle and I start climbing up the stairs, and I can see all these shoes outside. I'm going, they look like expat shoes or international shoes or whatever. I go upstairs and I'm cold now because they never gave me any warm clothes. They took everything off me, and all I was wearing was jeans and a little t-shirt, like a Boss short sleeve shirt. And it's 7th of December in Kabul, pretty chilly. So I go upstairs and the house was freezing. And then I come upstairs and I can hear the TV. There's a TV going on in the corner. Just a big table, but no other furniture. One guy sitting at the corner of the table, who turned out to be George. There was a bedroom. 2 guys came out. One was Ryan, the other was William. 2 gentlemen that were released 5 days before me. Then there was another bedroom. So now the guards were looking after me, Mr. Soul. I'll just call him Mr. S. He said, welcome to your new home and your new team. Everybody, this is David, and David, meet everybody. So I was still shocked. It's like, that deer that's caught in front of the headlight, and it's just stunned and it's just looking at you. The guys told me, you should have seen your face when you came in there. I was just like this, shaking, looking at them. I'm going, what the hell's happening? And it was the 4 Americans. 2 of them, one of them, Ryan, he was detained for over 888 days. Can you imagine? And the only reason he was detained is because of his passport. He's a US citizen. So he was used as a political pawn. They all were. So I got to know them all. And it was a really weird situation because 2 of them were good enough guys. One of them was seriously dangerous, and we actually had to do something with him. He was a psycho, actually. He lost it. He converted over, and he threatened to kill us, all kinds of stuff. So eventually we had him removed. He's still down on the bottom floor to the state because he wasn't negotiated to be released. He's still in that same cell right now, I'm sure of it. George reminded me of Al Pacino. The way his mannerisms, the way he swore, the way he looked, the way he cursed at the guards. I said, George, you might want to calm down a little bit. And I'm not going to swear in this audience, but he just reminded me of him. And every time the prayers would call, the mosque was only 25 meters away, and it was loud. And he would rebel against it. He would yell or turn up the TV. We'd have to tell him to calm down, get out of the way. So we were dealing not only with that situation we're in, but we're dealing now with some really strange personalities. One of them was William, an older gentleman, 69. He had a stroke prior, we don't know when. He couldn't speak, he had a hard time keeping his bodies clean. We had to feed him. He was really in a serious situation. He shouldn't be there. He needed immediately medical attention. So finally, when they negotiated, because they were negotiating only with Ryan and George for a couple of years, the negotiation team, the last minute, decided to take William, not George. So when Ryan and William left that morning, early that morning, and it was one day after Trump came into office, contrary to belief, Trump had nothing to do with that. It was all Biden who was getting them out. I know they took credit, but it was Biden's team who got them out. When George woke up, Ryan and William were gone. He didn't know where they were. Saw on CNN, you see on CNN, that they were released in exchange for Khan Mohammed, who was charged and in prison in 2008 for narco-terrorism. So George is suffering right now, and he's in a horrible situation. I shared a room with him on the floor for 3.5 weeks, and I know what he's going through. So my prayers and thoughts are out to him. We know we're talking to people in the State Department to try and see what's happening. There's negotiations going on right now as we speak with Doha and the Americans and the Afghans. So I left that villa, and I ended up in my own villa. They took me away, took my hood off, and they go, welcome home. I'm back at my own villa that we've set up back in 2010. So now I'm looking at this, so as you can see, each phase one was really bad. Seriously, it was bad. I thought I was there for the long haul. In fact, I wrote myself off. I thought, I'm gonna die here. I really did. And I succumbed to that. You go to a place, human beings are really special, what they can endure and what they can go through. No matter what crisis or whatever you go through, you can go through amazing things. I know we got a couple of gentlemen in the back who do a lot of crazy stuff, outdoor adventure racings and all that. We can do amazing things. We can turn our bodies and mindsets off. We've seen people cut their own arms off to get out of situations to carry on. So, your psyche is very important when you're put into these situations, and don't write yourself off. And that's a lesson I tell everybody. Everybody in this room and outside this room, you have it in you. You have it in you to endure, to move forward, to go through whatever challenges you're going with. I had the easiest job because I had a lot of training behind me. I just have to survive, keep my kidney function, and hope that the tribe outside is advocating for my release to do the best that they could do. And that kept me going. That was really assuring to me. And then finally, once I got into my villa, it's a really nice villa. It's a 4-story villa. We were there since 2010, and we mitigated it. We turned it almost to embassy level. And I know there's certain people here that have been to my villa. We used to have 4 villas together in the heart of Kabul. And when they brought me back, and they took me upstairs to the blue floor, the 4th floor, and he sat me down, he said, okay, you're here. You're gonna write out your sentence here. Make yourself at home. We're gonna give you all the space you can. And they did. So I'm like a cat in a new environment. So what does a cat do? It's going around sniffing every single corner, every room I went through, even though this is my place, but I don't really live there like I used to. My partners are there. So we're going from room to room. But when I went into my own master bedroom, where I have an office, I almost tripped over, what? I trip over my wife's little shoes. That really triggered something. It gave me so much hope. I see her little running shoes on the floor. Her clothes are still in the closet. So I am now looking at everything, and I've got my bed, nice brand new, well, really good mattress. I sleep well, actually, when I'm in Cologne. There was an earthquake one time when we had clients below. I slept through an earthquake. Everybody was panicking, going out, the whole house was shaking. But that mattress, that bed was great. So I now know I'm gonna have a good night's sleep. My first sleep on an actual mattress made a big difference. And it was cold out. We have a generator, but they didn't turn the generator on. They had electricity. The city power was good, only for certain parts of the day. So at nighttime, we had city power. I was able to find a couple things to keep comfort. And I was able to find one of my wife's, it's a Chinese bed warmer. It's an electric bed warmer. So I was wondering, does this thing work? So it does work. So I plugged it in, it worked. I used it every day, every night. Put it on my hip, I slept well. So I was going from room to room, finding a lot of things. I came across a lot of items I haven't seen in a long time, and I started cleaning up the house. Now I'm thinking, I'm not gonna be there for 2 years. I'm not gonna be there for a year. I think I'm gonna be out within 6 months. And sure enough, if I share a picture with you, upstairs I have a really great gym. On that whiteboard, I wrote down 9th of May, 2025. 9th of May, 2025. My son's birthday is 9 May. I said, I'm gonna be out of here before that date. And I was very happy with that. I was happy. I was able to eat well, I was able to cook. I make the best chicken soup ever. I had a soup, soup for weeks. I was able to, boil the chicken and cook the chicken and then get the broth from it, but that soup tasted so good. And I ate, and we had a little cat that was spoiled by my wife called Mama. She has a little black, little stubby tail, and she was so friendly. She was so happy to see me. So she was my best buddy, because I knew she was close to my wife. Every time I cooked something, she was there in the kitchen. Every time I sat down and watched TV, she sat beside me. So I set up my dining room area, put some nice chairs out, hooked up the cable, got TV now, and she would be by my side. In the mornings, I'd come on down, I'd make some pancakes or make some eggs or some porridge, and then I'd eat that very quickly because there was no power. We had propane to cook everything, which was a blessing. And I sit beside the window and it's cold outside, and I had nice sunlight coming in, and Mama would sit. I'd let her, normally I wouldn't, but she sat on the table and she's just looking at me. She's looking at me eating the food. And then when I finished my porridge, I left the bowl and she'd be licking the porridge bowl. And thank you. And then she'd go off the side and then I'd write my notes. I did bring my diary that I was able to do. I'll leave it up here if anyone wants to look at it. I wrote down anything and everything I could. The first time they gave me a pen and a paper was in my second phase, and I started writing as much as I could in case I never got out of there. And it was very important. That also helped me. But I also did it in shorthand. It's very small. Nobody could actually read it, which is another thing. So the last phase was the most important phase for me. I had hope. 30th of December, I got my first phone call. That was amazing. Very emotional, very hard. Ministers of Foreign Affairs for Afghanistan, Minister of Foreign Affairs for Qatar, they made that happen. So normally they would throw a hood over me, handcuff me, and get me to the location where there would be a gentleman with a phone and let me phone and let me call my family. They took the hood off and they said, "We trust you," which was really interesting. So they were giving me a little more respect, I guess. And they realized I'm not gonna try to run away or do anything. So we get into the office, we dial up, and I had that first call with my family. I tried calling my wife. She didn't answer. She didn't answer. So I called my son. He did answer. And
God love him. I mean, he just sounded so mature, so professional in everything that he did, what he said. He calmed me down immediately. First thing I said, where's my wife? Where's Junpei? Daddy, she's with me. She's with us. They're in Turkey. So they got her to Turkey to calm her down. Because Junpei was obviously going crazy, losing sleep, getting sick, not doing well, wanting to fly back into Kabul, to track me down, to open up a restaurant, to make dumplings, to get the dumplings to me. That's what her mindset was. Junpei would jump off a building if I was jumping off the building. So anyways, let me just talk about the dumplings first. So it's New Year's Eve. We did the phone call. It was an amazing phone call, as you imagine. It was very touching. We did that, and I was calmed down. My son said, Dad, we got everything under control. We have Alfred looking after your polar bear. We got the community of Perth behind you, praying for you. We have all of this happening. And I'm like, okay, don't worry about anything, Dad. All we want you to do is survive. Look after yourself. We got it. We got it. We got your back. We got everything. And it was so refreshing and so good. We finished that. Now, the dumplings. It's New Year's, and I've gone through the house, and there's our freezer. I go open up the freezer, and Junpei has a whole bunch of dumplings in there. It's a whole bonus. I was able to warm up the dumplings. And I ate those dumplings on New Year's Eve. And I brought in New Year's, our tradition, with our Chinese background. And Mom and Dad in China, at 8 o'clock our time, it's midnight their time in China. So I had dumplings, and I'm eating dumplings and bringing in New Year's, and I watched all the New Year's come in. So I'm sitting there eating dumplings, thinking, this is awesome. And I had Mama sit beside me, keeping me company, and we watched New Year's come and go. And it was one of those surreal moments in life where I felt so lucky at that point of time eating dumplings with a cat, an Afghan cat. It's strange. It was strange. So, that day, by the way, I went into the hospital and saw my doctors for the first time, the good doctors, and they were able to get the message back to the family that I was doing really well. And the rest was gaining rapport with the guards. The rest was living and cleaning and trying to be better at everything I was doing in that environment and thinking, what am I going to do when I get home? What am I going to do? How am I going to thank everybody? How am I going to tell everybody I'm so sorry for putting you through all of this unnecessary ordeal? And that's what I was worried about. I put everybody through this stress, and then I'm saying, you're not a security. You thought you were really good at security and risk management and looking after everybody, but you did everything. You didn't do everything the right way. So out of everything that I do in life, I'm going to be taking away a lot of things from that ordeal. I'm going to become better in certain areas, enjoy life better, because I'm always on the go for everybody else. I want to suck back a little bit. I'm not stopping what we do, because I believe, like anything, I believe what that clinician said to me, my calling was to get captured and talk my stories to help other people. God rest my mother's soul, which, by the way, I was just in Vancouver and Squamish, and we were able to go and visit Mom. I buried Mom in Squamish in a beautiful cemetery in '95, and we were able to go and see Mom on this trip and say, thank you very much for looking out for us. So faith and everything that I've gone through on this little trip has built me even stronger. It's given me more resolve, resilience and strength and love and courage and risk. If you don't gamble, or if you don't take that risk to do something, you'll never know. You'll never know, and you'll be sitting there one day saying, why didn't I? Why didn't I do that? And I'm so fortunate to have the support to get me doing certain things that I've done to help other people that I don't even know. But now they have a better life here in Canada, and I'd do it again, but maybe not the same way. I'll do it again, but not the same way. And the beauty behind this story is, while I was detained and they took those visas away, our team was still able to look after those 18 people and get them across, and they're back in Canada now. The moral of this story is, you can teach a new dog new tricks. And this old dog has learned some good tricks. And I hope to be able to share them and pass them on to as many people as I can. You know, preventing something before it happens is what it's all about. A lot of us react to the boom and the bang. We're really good at reacting to booms and bangs. But can we act before that? Can we? Can we prevent something before it happens, or can we offer advice before it actually happens? That's what it's all about. You don't want to take this and die with it. You want to share it. So I want to share as much as I can. And that's what we're going to do this year. We're going to probably do a little more speaking. Hopefully write a book. Eventually people have been pushing for me to write this book. And I said, well, no, I need a little more to fill out the book. But I've had enough stuff now. And I don't want to go through that again. I don't want to put my family through that again. But it's something that I think I need to share, because while I'm laying on the floor, I was worried about missing milestones. And a lot of them come and go. Birthdays, Christmas, New Year's, Valentine's Day was coming up, and it was important for me. Our gala with the Joy Smith Foundation gala was the 20th of February. I got to meet this lovely lady because of two amazing friends that are sitting here right now, Jody and Devin. Devin, the ambassador of all of arm wrestling. He's a phenomenal man, gentleman, ex-unit member, but he was so excited. Dave, listen to me. You know, we're on the bus. You got to get involved in this. And Jody calmed him down and said, Dave spoke to us about this amazing organization. I didn't hear of Joy Smith Foundation. She's a champion. She's a pioneer. She was a school teacher for 28 years. Then she went into politics. And these people were telling me, you got to get involved. So I'm like, get involved? What did I get involved with? And it was all about human trafficking, sex trafficking, to eradicate this disease. And I said, yeah, I'd love to learn more, send me some information. So they did. And then we connected up with Joy Smith's daughter, Janet, who actually runs the organization now, and her daughter, who's part of the organization, Kate. And then we had a call, and also another gentleman on that call is an ex-former unit member, Skip. So we had a nice call, nice chat, and then they told me about this gala, because they need money. They need money to raise for this gala, to raise for a campus, to help out all these survivors and educate, etc., and help them grow and reintegrate back into society. I said, man, this sounds so important. Why am I not involved in it? So I'm laying in the cell thinking, I'm going to miss all these milestones. And how could I contribute? And you have time to think, what is my purpose and how can I contribute? What can I do? And I thought, I'm going to miss it. But I didn't miss it. So we flew out, we met some lovely people, and friends I haven't seen. It was all connected, and everybody was connected in one way or another. One of our friends, I haven't seen him in 20 years. They run Baden K9. I haven't seen Josh in 20 years. Last time I saw him was a young lad in Kabul. He was at the event. I was privileged enough to open up. They asked me last minute to say something. And I was right before Devin. Devin was the keynote speaker. So we were all there for a purpose, like us. You came to listen to my story. I'm very humbled. We all have a story to tell. And I hope everybody can tell your story. I hope we can pass on the goodness that we carry. My next chapter is to support that phenomenal organization, the Joyce Smith Foundation, in any way I can. It's all about education. It's all about support. And I hope you take the time. We can get that information for you. Have a look at it. Have a look at it, because we need to educate more.
But before we move into questions, I want to do a presentation. Many of you who are in Perth will know that before Remembrance Day, you see banners up all along the streets. And so on behalf of the Polar Bear Fund,
That's an old picture. I think Johnny probably took that picture. Okay, I think you've heard me talk enough. And again, I'm humble. I will open up the floor if anybody has any specific questions for me. If I can answer them, if you want, I'm here.
Our minister served in Saudi Arabia.
Excuse me?
Our minister from where we live served in Saudi Arabia as he ran the church there. And when you were captured, he said that Canadians, Americans, and the English are treated better. He said if you're not one of those, you can expect the worst. Is that true?
Well, I can tell you from this Canadian, I wasn't tortured. I can tell you from the Americans that I was with, they weren't tortured. There was one question about one of the individuals, we don't know everything. He said he was chained up and he might have been beaten, but physically weren't tortured. One of the situations that I do know from the Americans, they were psychologically tortured. You know, guys would come on in, open the doors, laser them. They had lasers on the end of the weapons and point weapons at them, getting butted by a weapon, water sprayed, squirted on them, but not the torture in the sense that you see physically, but the mental torture significantly, yeah.
One other question. How much help did you get from our foreign affairs?
Good question. My son's not here with me. My son's the rock star. He dealt with everybody. We do know the Canadian government were involved. One part of that involvement was again by Joyce Smith, who is a member of Parliament. She called up Justin Trudeau and said, Justin, you need to do something. You need to get the information out about our member David. And he did after she talked to him. We do know Minister Jolie gave Brant her number. We do know Brant was sending her messages, personal messages, same with Juping. We do know GAC had a representative that was assigned to our family and was instrumental in answering a few questions. Behind the scenes, what the Canadian government was doing directly with the government of Qatar, we couldn't tell you. I asked the ambassador when I came off that plane in Doha on the 26th, the evening of the 26th, when she introduced herself and had me in her vehicle. I asked her two questions. I asked the ambassador, I said, did they ever share a video of me to anybody in the government of Canada? She goes, no. Did they ever, and then the last question I asked her, I said, did the Afghan authorities ever ask for anything in exchange for me? And she said, no. I said, well, that's very surprising. She goes, indeed it was. So the relationship between the Qataris, the Canadian government, and then the Afghan government, de facto government, we will never know. There's speculations and all that, but what we believe and what I've been told through other sources, the Qataris were able to convince the Afghan government or authorities it's to their best interest to treat us and release us if there was nothing on us. And you have to remember, the Qataris had a busy time frame, right? At that point, when I was being released, you had the Americans released 5 days before me. Simultaneously, you had the whole situation with Gaza, with the Israelis and Hamas at the table in Doha. And the champions of the mediators are the Qataris. They've been seen as the champions to mediate, all the crises, bring everybody to the table, resolve it. So they resolved, and what they got out of this, because again, the Qataris, they got out of being, look at us, look what we did. And when we were told that my case was the fastest, like I said, the fastest case that they have resolved, that's a bonus. That's a bonus for them. So we did have support. People will challenge, because I'm getting fed all the information now. And I'm being told by some amazing people that were working directly at various levels in the government that immediately had the government online. You got to remember, for us, it happened very quickly because we had SOPs, standing operational procedure, failed comms. I came off the plane, when I landed, I sent a text to my family, landed. And then when they didn't hear anything after 20 minutes, sending text messages, then Junping, calling, nothing, and then my phone was turned off. Then they realized something's going on, we need to find out more, then they realized I was taken. So they were able to expedite that. And God loved my wife. She was going through so much that night. She said, I need to reach out to people that could make an immediate difference. She contacted a good friend of ours in Abu Dhabi, Colonel John, and she said, Colonel, there was a whole bunch of lead up. He didn't answer right away. But then finally when he did answer that night, said David's being taken by the Taliban. He just said, oh my God, whatever, and went to work and blasted off messages to everybody that he could. IRCC, Canadian government, CAF, etc. And that initiated immediately the visibility, and everybody had an understanding that something's happened to another Canadian. And then she got a hold of other people. So the government was aware at early stages, which is a good thing. There was maybe a little bit of a time lapse by the time the actual Canadian government got a hold of the Qatari government. Because there was a point in time, the Afghan government were asking, why isn't anybody reaching out to us? That was mentioned unofficially through other channels we learned. So from my perspective, Ed, 77 days, I was happy with that.
Dave, I just wanted to say that the day that I heard that you'd been taken, this is the worst news we could ever, get. And I thought he's a pretty smart guy, he's going to get out of it. And then as time went on, I started to think, and I even mentioned it at the bar a couple of times, I said, I'm worried for Dave. And all of us were. And I want to say, first of all, how thrilled I was to find out that you got out. One thing I wanted to ask you, you haven't mentioned what actually happened the day that you were released. Was there a phone call? Did somebody just come and say you're free to go? Just walk us through that day and how you were feeling that very minute when you realized you were coming home.
Wow, that's a good one. My apologies for forgetting that one, but I actually learned I was being released the day before, that night. It's the 25th of January. And I was sitting there, actually in my room, and I was soaking my feet. My wife would be pleased and proud of me for soaking my feet. It was cold out. She always has me, if I'm sitting at the desk, she'll get a nice hot bowl of water, and I soak my feet. So I was soaking my feet, thinking of my wife, watching a little bit of TV, drying off, then I went to bed. Got to bed, and then the door opened. The door opens, and it's one of the guards. And they don't knock on the door. Anybody who's been in Afghanistan, they hate the doors closed. They just barge in. David, are you up? David, are you up? I go, yeah, I am, Omar. Yeah, the boss wants to talk to you.
So he came by my bed, turned on the bedside lamp, handed me the phone. I answered, I go, hello, how are you? You know, that kind of stuff. And then he said, David, good news. I go, good news? He says, you're going to be released tomorrow. I go, for sure? Because it's still, you know, whatever. And he goes, yes, 100% you're going to be released. What I would like you to do is pack up all your stuff, and tomorrow morning I will tell you what time you're going to be leaving. So with that, I hung up, I got up, and I was very happy. So I started moving around, repacking, because I had a lot of stuff pre-packed, just in case we were going to move. So I was cleaning up. After a couple hours, I went back to bed. Had a nice sleep, obviously. Woke up very anxious. And I got up that morning, did my routine. My routine was easy. I lay in my bed first. I had a window behind me, and the sun would shine in early and would reflect right off one of the pictures. I had 3 pictures there, canvas pictures, that I was, when we bought in the market, and I saw the gentleman who painted them. And they're now in my home in Dubai. But one of the pictures, and I always talk to these guys, there's 3 gentlemen in the pictures. One guy was wearing a red cloak, another one green, another one blue, and they're all 3 talking to each other. And in the morning, I would always ask these gentlemen, I said, good morning, what's up today? What's the verdict? What's the decision? But this morning, I basically looked at them and I said, I'm out here. You know, got up, did my stretch, made my bed for the last time, so I made it well, covered it, cleaned up everything, because I never know, I don't think I'm going to be back there again. So I took as many things as I could. So I packed up my suitcase. I had five paintings I was able to get in there, and some other possessions, my wife's stuff. I brought a few of her things back. And then I went downstairs and I made my porridge, sat there with Mama, and I wrote in my diary. Do you have my diary? I'll tell you. So yeah, so I waited the whole day for my guys to come by to tell me, David, you're going to leave. They came by that afternoon. And they said, yeah, we're going to be leaving at 6 p.m. I said, okay. Yeah, I had everything. I was already out there. I was very excited. I had my suitcases. I brought 2 suitcases, or 1 suitcase and a red bag. And I'm sitting out there waiting, and they said, no, you got a couple more hours. So I went back upstairs and I go to my bedroom and I'm looking, did I leave anything behind? What else can I fit in my suitcase? I went upstairs to my gym. I love my gym. The gym was the best gym in the world. So I was up there and I had these I'm doing more abs. You know, I'm doing everything. I was doing push-ups and abs and stretches, and just can't wait to get in that vehicle. Then I went downstairs. It was time. Now, one of the guards that was looking after us in the safe house, his name is Mama also. It's not a cat. And I failed to mention, these Afghans that were looking after me, they were all young. The majority of them were young. And the majority of them, they were all prisoners at one time. Mama was a prisoner for 4 years in Bagram. They tortured him. When I say they, it wasn't the Americans, it was the Afghans. They tortured him. And he told us one day when we were up on the roof, because in that phase, they gave us a break once a day, and we were able to sit up outside, get some air, get some sun. And then he was telling Ryan, by the way, was a school teacher who could speak Pashtun, so they were communicating very well. And I could see in the eyes of Mama how hurt he was when he told us the story about being released, being tortured. I'm not going to tell you what he went through. So Mama wanted to be there and drive me to the airport. So I had Mama, I had another senior guy and 2 other guards drive me to the airport. As they were driving me to the airport, now it's starting to kick in. This is getting real. It's not 100% because anything could change. At that point in time, we get inside the VIP airport area. We're waiting. There's a lot of stuff going on. There was a delegation from Iran coming in. The deputy minister of foreign affairs or whatever from Iran was coming in, so we had to wait for them to get through. And then finally, I could see one gentleman up front of the car. And this was one of the guys at the Minister of Foreign Affairs for Afghanistan who gave me the phone call, because I used his phone. He came and they rolled down the back window. And he goes, Mr. David, are you okay? I go, yes, I am, sir. He says, we're very pleased and very happy that you're being able to be released. And that was it, so he left. Then there was 3 other gentlemen, and one of them came forward. One of them was a Qatari, the main Qatari that was bringing me back. He says, Mr. David, are you okay? I go, yeah, I'm okay. And he just gave me a wink, give me a thumbs up, and he said, I'll see you on the airplane. I said, okay. So now I'm getting closer and closer. So my bags were already taken from me. At that point in time, Mama and the other senior guy, they gave me a plastic bag. And in that plastic bag was my laptop, my 2 cell phones, and some other item, a watch and something else. So I got my laptop and my watch, my phones back. My wallet, all my credit cards, all the money I had before, I got everything back. All my items were given back. I never thought I'd ever see them again. So I can assure you, they are learning. You know, they've learned. I would not want to be Ryan or George 2 years ago, or I certainly wouldn't want this happen to me a couple of years ago. So I'm feeling really good. I get on the plane, we take off. It still wasn't there. It's still not there. I'm looking out the window and I could see the city of Doha approaching. Now the lights, those that have flown into Doha, you can see it's very ambient at nighttime. And as we're landing, I'm now, okay, we're closer. We're getting closer. The doors open and they open the door for me. I was the first one off. I'm looking down on the tarmac. I shared this with other people, and to this day, I didn't believe it. There's all these people there. They're all giddy. They're like this, smiles on their face. And I'm looking at these people. Who are they? They're here to look for, there's going to be a VIPs on this plane, so look me up. I kid you not. I kid you not. So I walk down the stairs, get down to the landing, and the lady introduced herself. She's the ambassador. I am ambassador, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going, and she goes, we're so happy to have you with us. I go, I'm happy to be with you. And then the gentleman on the side, the Qatari, he was the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Abdullah. And he's like this, so happy, so happy. And he says, we're so happy to have you. And he was going on and on. He says, and that's the gentleman who told me, you are the fastest case we've ever had. And we're so happy. And I go, well, I'm so happy too. So the ambassador takes me in the car, and I said, we drove off together, and I asked her those questions. And that's the longest part that I had to endure, is going through the customs. It wasn't long, but it was just the anticipation to get through that customs and get my visa stamped and all of that. And all the time, I knew my wife and my son were on the other side. And they said, you're going to be reunited. You're going to be reunited very soon. Just a couple more minutes. And then as I'm finally getting my passport stamped, I could see this. I see my wife sticking her head out. And I see my son's head out like this. They're looking. And then all of a sudden, I get through, and she's running, and she jumps onto me like a vice grip and wouldn't let go. It was the best hug I had. So that's how it all ended, but it hasn't ended. And I hope I answered your question.
Welcome home.
I'll leave these here. I mean, you can see how small print this is. But what I thought was ironic when they handed me this school is the first thing I read when they gave this to me, I'm going, wow, I get some reading material, writing material. It goes, time flies. No kidding. And it goes, I hope you can get good grades. And I'm going, all right, that's the first thing I read when they sent it, you know. So and I wrote as much as I could, and it was for my wife and family. One day I will share with you. Yeah, so you can see, but what I did want to share, and I don't think I have the time, but on day 6, on here, you can have a look, I'll leave it up here, I have 5 pages, And it was a vivid dream I had, and it was a realistic dream. I'll share it later with some other people if you're interested, see me afterwards. But this dream, I classified it as a fantasy, so you have positive distraction. And what positive distraction for me means, if somebody is going through a life-changing event, I try to distract you. I'll come and get you and say, hey, listen, come with me. Let's go. Give me the weekend and we'll take off and we'll do the boys thing together. I'm trying to distract them in a positive manner. This one here was fantasy distraction. I woke up that morning though, on the sixth day, and my heart was going, and I'm looking at the window, and I'm like, is this for real, or am I dreaming it? And the dream, I won't go into it because it's lengthy. You'll read about it one day. It was some good people were coming to get me out and rescue me. And I turned that dream into reality, and I turned that dream into an episode. So when that dark head was talking to me, I went under my covers, and I sat there under my covers, and I listened to that episode. So episode 1 was the escape. Episode 2 was the travel to Mazar safe house. Episode 3 was the actual crossing of the river to get into Uzbekistan. Episode 4 was going from Uzbekistan, Termez, up into Tashkent. And it went on and went on. And I relived that, and I wrote it down, I kept it there, and that helped me. That helped me calm things down. I might have only got 10, 15 minutes under the cover thinking of it, but it really assisted me. So if you're ever put into a situation, come up with some positive distractions that will distract you from something horrific and so horrible. We've all experienced horrible situations in our life. You need that positive distraction. So my dream, that was it. It was so real to me, and it really saved me through some dark times. That's all I could share on that. But then this was the first book I was able to get when I went back to my own house. It was in my desk, and I picked it up. And I was able to find some pictures, and I found a picture, and this picture was taken from a good buddy of me who's sitting at the back bar, Johnny, when I was here last summer. And I'm like, how the hell did they get this picture? And I was really upset. So I was going through, it was on the 30th of December, I was going through the whole villa, and on the red floor in one of the rooms was my partner's room, or the guys that were working for us. And there was a blue bag in there. And I said, that blue bag looks like my bag. I go through that bag. I'm already on a high because I just finished talking to my family. But I see this bag and I'm going, what's my bag doing in his room? So I open it up and I see all my items in there. So I take it upstairs to the blue floor, my floor. I empty this bag. And as I emptied the bag, there's good clothes, warm clothes that I couldn't find before. I'm going, why is it in here? So I'm getting really angry at these guys, but really happy. Now I'm finding my good boots, my sweatpants, my sweaters, and all that stuff. And then I saw a National Geographic magazine. I go, what's a National Geographic magazine doing in this bag? So I flip it open and an envelope fell out. And out of that envelope, I open the envelope and then I see these pictures in there. I'm going, this is now driving me crazy. What's actually happening here? So there's pictures, there's my clothes, and then I learned later through Junping and my son that they reached out to our partners and they told them to put a care package together for me. So he was trying to get that package to me. So he was grabbing as much as he could. So he was stuffing in pictures into the magazine. Hopefully the guards wouldn't see it. And really bizarre case, I can't go too much, but I'll tell you this. They gave me an opportunity when I left the hospital on the 31st of December. I said, would you mind stopping off at Jam's supermarket? It's on the way home. I thought, why not? Why not ask that question? I thought, well, all they can say is no. They gave me the opportunity. They said, David, yes, but whatever you do not compromise the situation here. Because one, I will get fired. They'll probably do something bad to me, so don't tell my boss. But don't make contact with anybody in that store. I'm not making this up. The family will tell, we're upset about it, actually. So I'm walking through the store, and I see some people in there. I keep my head down, I'm mocking, because I don't want to ruin a good thing. I'm picking up some provisions, I'm picking up cans of beans, some chicken, some treats, and I'm like, this